And let's just wrap up quickly our business part with two related questions. One of them being, what would be your initial advice to someone who wants to integrate AI into their existing business, don't know where to start, who to come to?
The first most important thing is make sure you have the data infrastructure. Because as you might recall, data is the second most important thing after you identify the problem and matched it with machine learning use case. Uh, Data is what machine learning needs, so make sure you have the data, you
Mm-hmm.
have the infrastructure for a machine learning or data scientist or someone
Mm-hmm.
to uh, pull the necessary data out from or connect to that data source, so you can have the best idea, you can solve the greatest business problem, but you don't have data, you actually solve nothing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So is it always data scientist or can be somewhere else in the team who is in direct contact with data and infrastructure?
To make sure that data is available and organized and represents the business and so on, usually you have data engineers
Mm-hmm.
which facilitate this process. We, as either machine learning engineers or data scientists, are the consumers, one of the consumers of this data, because there can be many consumers of the data in a company in general. Um, so, yeah, usually we also do a bit of exploration, uh, but we don't really deal with organizing your data infrastructure and
Mm-hmm.
preparing these flows. Eh, Things like this should exist if you want to apply MLAI,
Mm-hmm.
and we also do a bit of research into your data infrastructure, and but mainly pull what the research means, really identifying what's there and relevant and pulling it to the project.
Mm-hmm. So there are certain requirements to apply to data when someone wants to benefit from AI and ML solutions. Got it. And another thing, a bit broad question, but what are key considerations when building a startup fully around AI technology? So that is not just a solution we integrate into to improve some things. We have some processes, but we are building a startup around it. So particularly in terms of choosing the right problem to solve. So probably there are some requirements to problems that can be solved with AI too.
So, just to make sure I understood, again, similar advice for people trying to build a startup around AI. So, considerations and so on.
Right. Especially when they at the stage of choosing the right problem to solve. You are, as an insider, have a good idea what problems can be best approached with this technology and what have no chance.
You have to have a basic understanding of the type of
Mm-hmm.
tasks that machine learning can solve, and this is a common misconception that you can use AI for everything or machine learning for
Mm-hmm.
everything. It's not the case. You can solve a, a bigger a bigger array of problems and tasks, and hopefully they apply to a lot of real world problems, but not to everything. So just to give some examples, this is related to the types of learning, let's say, how machine learning is utilizing the data and the type of tasks. So when we talk about supervised learning, where there is a learning process, we talk about mainly two tasks, so classification and regression, where
Mm-hmm.
classification means tell me if this image is a cat or a dog, or will this person buy the car or not. Um, and regression, predicting a continuous value, like predicting house prices, or predicting the price of a bond, and so on. And then we have unsupervised learning, when there isn't an actual learning process happening. You don't have the necessary data to say, I have this data set, this table of people that bought cars, um, but I don't want to say this person will buy or will not buy. All of them bought. I'm just trying to maybe group them together and have some insight. Or
Mm-hmm.
maybe all the people that came to the service and some of them bought and some of them didn't bought a car, but I don't have that data in the table. So maybe I can do some grouping, some clustering, how it's called, and I can group them together, the ones that bought and the ones that didn't bought. But I had no prior information. I didn't have a training process. This is unsupervised learning.
Mm-hmm.
And you have multiple tasks in unsupervised learning. And then you have reinforcement learning, which is another another thing which is even more complex. So given an environment, like I'm giving this room to an AI model and telling it get out of this room in the most efficient way possible, it will try to learn what actions to take in this environment. Um, and then after understanding like what type of tasks can machine learning solve, is any of these tasks uh, related to my problem? Um,
Mm-hmm.
is any of these tasks solving? Can any of these tasks solve my problem? Is it applicable and so on? So yeah, this is even step zero, I would say. If you are
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
doing, if you are building this startup on your own and try to identify if it's a good case for AIML, but then you go down the rabbit hole with way more problems. Again, data infrastructure, uh, where do I deploy, how do I make my app available, what's the response time for the machine learning model if it's too complex, where do I store it, a ton of questions and a ton of problems. But
Yeah, hopefully.
hopefully we have the answer for that.
Yeah, I honestly got tired already picturing all that I'd have to go through if I were to build such a startup, like based on this technology. But good luck to all of you who will embark on this journey. Yeah, and if any help is needed, you know where to find it. We skipped the question about cost optimization. This is probably a part of solution when you use simpler models to your tasks that allow it. But do you think this behavior of default choice comes from a lack of understanding or the brand that is formed around the most go-to solution, like LLM?
Probably lack of understanding.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and of course, if you don't know that you can wear rain boots when it's raining outside, you'll probably still wear sneakers. Uh,
Yeah.
that's probably the cause, and probably also that some businesses are afraid of the associated costs and they think that investing in an existing solution for many types of problems will be more efficient. Uh, but it's again a decision that you should probably make with someone who's informed and tell you
Mm-hmm.
probably the thing that you want to do with the existing solution will have a decent quality and will take X amount of time and will in the end cost you this amount for maintenance. Uh, but if we do this different approach, which you don't probably hear uh, when searching Google machine learning, um,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
it will take 1 more week to implement or 2 more weeks, but it will be tailored specifically for your data and for you, and the maintenance costs and the performance after that are way different and way better. Yeah, so
Mm-hmm.
that's I think
So yeah,
the field right
as
now.
always, as always, we should be careful on saving money on the highly informed people because in the end we'll end up spending even more on the solution that wasn't the best fit. So yeah, let's gradually finish this interview. Thank you very much for your insights and You can, of course, check Alan's profile at Ask a Pro platform. The link is in description. Feel free to ask some questions related to the content in the comments. I will try to ask Alan directly, and or you can also reach out to him on the platform. Thank you, Alan, very much. Yeah.
Thank you very much also for having me. It was a pleasure.